It's probably the number one question out there that never gets asked. What would you do if you were a first-time elk hunter? Look, if that's your question on your mind, you can bet the house and your favorite hat that you're not the only one. So simple, but man, that's a huge question for so many people wanting to fulfill their dream of a first-time elk hunt. Well, y'all, let's cut to the chase. Get simple and get real. Tonight, knowing what we know now, here's what we would do if you were going to hunt elk for the first time. Those topics along with our ElkBros shoutouts and questions from our ElkBros mailbox. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilliam. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from an undisclosed place out here in somewhere in Texas. And from Katy, Texas, the one and only, the king of the kitty cult. It is our Venezuelan mafia leader, Luis Gonzalez, and your elk hunting coach from New Mexico, Joe the Bad Man Gillia. How you doing, guys?
Doing good, man. You're gonna have to start calling WWF, dude.
Well,
Luis, how are you?
I could get in my announcing voice, the Joe Gillia.
There you go.
How you doing, guys? Thanks again for having me back.
Yeah,
buddy.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, Luis used to get teased a lot about his cow call sounding like a meow.
So we call him the leader of the kitty cult.
There we go. Yeah.
I got all them cats around the neighborhood following me.
So I not that I want to
show off.
Huh?
Show
Look
off.
at the swag that he's got.
Looky here, man. Look, so everybody, check it out. The shirts. This is one of the shirts for ElkBros that you can find in our store, and you know I can tell you, Luis Gonzalez was the first person to order something at the ElkBros store. Historical moment. And Gilbert, you know why that was, don't you, Gilbert? Huh?
No.
Which one did I order, Joe?
Because his picture's on the back, man.
That's right.
That's
right.
I was
a little biased, but I had to do it.
I would guess so, like he needed something else to swell that giant head.
Hey, but that's better than actually, you know what Joe did? Joe actually went and did push-ups and lifted some weights right before the podcast just to make sure that his chest looked big enough to show the logo.
You notice how the word elk, you know how the word elk has that mountainous look to it, right?
That's right.
So the first person to get a shirt, the first person to wear one of these was Leroy Chav, and
that's awesome.
Took it to him in Albuquerque. The first thing Chav did, and it was so cool because Linnea's daughter was in there, and they were like, "Oh, that's a nice shirt." And he grabs the shirt and he looks at it and he goes, "That's me right there."
That's right. That's me right
I know
there.
the feeling. I'm gonna be doing it too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see Manano, and I'm gonna show my shirt. I'm Manano. That's me right there.
You might have everything, Manano, but you'll never
have this.
on the first set. I mean, this is the first run. This is historical, man. The first tease. I have some more designs that are happening. You know, Gilbert wanted one for our grinders that goes for them, and there's going to be a couple of cool things coming out as we start to go and grow. Also, the hats.
I was going to ask.
Yes, sir. The hats, by the time people listen to this, because the hats arrive tomorrow. So
fantastic.
We actually, Mike Wilson as we sit here, I had an order come in on the phone.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and definitely, man. Michael Wilson out of Ogden, Utah, ordered
Ogden, Utah.
the first order for an ElkBros hat right here, man. So
Fantastic.
yeah,
That's awesome.
That's way cool. And there's shirts out there that are shipping. People are getting some of them. So for you guys listening to the podcast, we're celebrating. We're celebrating a lot of things. We're celebrating this Monday. Chav has his last chemo treatment, bro. This
Heck
one's for you. Go knock it out of the park, man. I tell you, I know it's been a grind, Chav, and buddy, you're something else. And we love you, and just know that we can't go through it for you, man. But buddy, we're giving you all of our thoughts and everything, and
no doubt
want you to knock this out. So
I want the listeners to understand the level of admiration that we have for Chav. His ability to keep at it, to keep working, to struggle through all of this, and to always have that end in sight, and just how much he has recovered in such a short time. And then again, you know, the way he is, his quiet wisdom and his kind words and his kind soul and the way he teaches you things. And Chav is just an incredibly special person. And to see him come through this like he has come through this is just admirable, and definitely somebody that we consider a role model for that.
Oh, man, I've been so blessed and so fortunate the last 4 years to be able to hunt with him. Joe, for lack of a better word, gave him to me, you know, and that's big because, you know, that's Joe's partner, you know,
right.
And I
always
got to,
been.
Yeah, and always has been. So I feel so humbled by being able to hunt with him. And then got to call a bull. My first bull I ever called in, I called in for him. So, you know, Chav has a huge, special place in my heart. I love him to death. He is an exceptional guide and, you know, an exceptional human being. He's just a guy that you want to ride the river with, you know, and if anybody ever said anything bad about him, I'd sock you in the mouth. So, I mean, that's just kind of how I feel about it. So,
and I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything bad about
out
Chav,
there that could.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard Chav say a bad thing about anybody. And I mean, that just kind of.
I love that about him because I can tell you this to this day, Joe, there's a bunch of people that can't say good stuff about me. I promise you. So, from the time I turned about 40 till now, I've been trying to live my life a lot better. Wow. But I can apologize to people now if I did anything to offend you.
Well, I tell you what, man, I'm riding shotgun with you, bro, and always will. So, but for you listeners, man, to celebrate all of this, to celebrate that last chemo coming up, to celebrate the first of this store and what we're doing with this venture, I'm going to give you a discount code, and it's simply Blue Collar. BLUECOLLAR, Blue Collar. So that will get you 15% off your total order when you go ahead and order on the ElkBros store. Order whatever you want. If you order anything over $50, you're going to get free shipping as well. So that's a pretty good savings right there.
No doubt.
Hey, Joe, just for clarification, Blue Collar, no space.
No
right?
space. Just one word, Blue Collar, okay, for blue collar elk hunting. And
fantastic.
Yep. So you'll get you go to the store, when you go to check out, there'll be a section there for a discount code. You just type that in, lowercase, Blue Collar, and it'll take it off off the top for you. All right.
Fantastic. Joe, I got to tell you, I received a text from my brother, Zach Fisher. He gave us an idea. He gave us an idea, man. I wanted to give him a little prop. He's always trying to help out and stuff. He says, in quotations, through the grind comes the glory. An idea for your ElkBros grind gear.
Oh, so, yeah.
Through the grind, it comes the glory. I like it.
Hey,
like it. No
man,
doubt.
I
Thanks,
tell you
Zach.
what, and we're gonna have to put a little Z somewhere on there that's
Absolutely.
hidden
The
just for
Zach
Zach on
Fisher
that.
edition,
Yep.
ElkBros swag with a
Yep.
Z, Zach Fisher edition.
Zach, you're the man.
ElkBros grind gear.
All
Dig it,
right, man.
Zach. Thanks so much, brother. Appreciate it.
You
Hey,
betcha.
Beto, real quick before
Yes, sir.
we go to shout outs, a quick update on your friend Tony.
Yeah, man, doing really well in therapy every day, occupational, vocational, and physical, and they doing
Good.
speech therapy with him too. So he's doing good. He's got a scheduled release date for 3/7 and should be home March 7th, and doing good, doing
Amen.
it, and we kind of know why. I mean, we put a little bit of that love oil on him, and man, I'm telling you, he's doing really good.
Amen.
That's awesome, bro.
Yep, very good.
Way to go, Tony.
Well, Joe, you know what time it is.
Shout out.
It's
Shout
time
out.
for
Shout
ElkBros
out.
shout outs.
Shout out.
If you're new to the show, these are just shout outs to a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this
And
week.
it's so awesome this week, man. These are some, it was amazing. All these cool things that came out of these towns this week. So starting off, all right, Gilbert, I know you've never been to Las Vegas, but if you land at McCarran International Airport, Luis, have you been over there?
I don't think I've been to the airport. I've been to Las Vegas, though.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if you land at McCarran International Airport, visit the Welcome to Las Vegas sign, ride the Las Vegas monorail, and hang out at the Strip. Where are you? Well, you would figure you're in Las Vegas, kind of like Grant's Tomb, right?
Right.
No, actually, if you did all those things and flew home, you'd leave the city without ever actually even setting foot in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
In the city
Yeah.
limits of Las Vegas. That's
Yeah,
correct.
in fact, as casinos were being built back in the day, now we're talking like mob days back in the day, right? This town
Right.
was created so that casinos there could avoid paying taxes to the city of Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
These days, new casinos still try to stay within this town limit in order to avoid paying higher taxes. And
Wow.
most people don't even know that the whole time they're there, they're actually in Paradise, Nevada.
Wow. Very cool. Didn't know that, Joe.
Yeah.
Man, I've been through there several times, Reno, Tahoe, Las Vegas, but never had spent a whole lot of time there, and did not know that when I flew into the airport there that we were not in Las Vegas.
Not in Las Vegas. And it says welcome to Las Vegas when you get there, right?
Sure does. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, I went to the PBR finals there one year.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was pretty cool. That's a town that's wild and woolly, brother.
It never
No
goes
doubt.
to sleep.
I wanna go to a UFC fight in Las Vegas. It's going to be one of my bucket list things to do.
I'd like to go to the big archery
Rocky
shoot that
Mount.
they have there.
And don't they have a Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation
Yes, they do.
sometimes there?
Mhm.
So I'd like to do that as well. I think that'd be a good trip. Get the ladies together and go. You know.
Sound like a plan.
For sure. Up next, Joe, Pikes Peak to the south, Mount Evans to the west, Long's Peak to the northwest, and the vast plains on the east. The area of our next city was first recognized as part of the Missouri Territory, Nebraska, and Kansas until 1861, when the Colorado Territory was created. Most researchers guess the name from the broom corn crop that in that area. It's a tall sorghum that farmers sold for use for broom whisks and whatnot in Broomfield, Colorado.
Broomfield. Yeah, a lot of Colorado towns. Broomfield in the house. Guys, thank you for listening.
Yes,
And
sir.
yeah,
Good elk country. Good elk country in Colorado.
Oh, most definitely. There's been some changes though, and there's some things that we'll probably talk about on a future podcast because
Cool.
Wyoming cut some of its non-resident tags there, and Colorado took some of those OTCs and made them into a limited draw as well. So there's some changes on there. All right.
All right, listeners, cut me some slack as Joe has a tendency to give me the toughest cities to pronounce and the toughest reading to actually communicate. So
Dude, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't
oh
matter.
my gosh, this is gonna be interesting. People is gonna be rewinding and laughing. This is what's gonna happen here. But so here we go. Only 20 miles from Niagara Falls. This town's name comes from the Erie Seneca Indian word Jiikdowaga, or place of the crabapple tree. For almost a century, this area remained hunting and fishing grounds for the Six Nations of the Iroquois. Today, this suburb of Buffalo has one of the largest malls in the Buffalo area and still has ties to its blue-collar Polish American heritage. And it has the first Cabela's store to be built in New York. The name of the town, y'all, is Cheektowaga.
Cheektowaga. Yeah, New York. Yeah.
Cheektowaga, New York.
That's messed up, Joe. I can't believe you're making fun of me like this, man. You're just cracking up over there, man.
Hey, all them Polish Americans, y'all better watch the heck out. Especially the ones that were from Polished.
Polished. I mean, you never knew they could be polished.
Exactly.
Oh, wait a second, man.
I'm a polished American boy. Don't. Hey.
This is what I get at camp all the time, guys. This is,
Hey, y'all want to be in elk camp with us? Join the crowd. Here we are.
And look, I apologize to all Six Nations of the Iroquois there too, man. So it's like
I didn't know if it sounded like French. I had no idea.
Actually,
man.
it was not bad. I mean, it is French when you kind of think about it there.
Okay.
So, but I hope everybody understood that a big thing here was the Cabela store. It's the first one to be built in New York. Was right here. Yeah, in Cheektowaga, New York there. But when you said blue collar polish, dude, I'm sorry. I can't.
Yeah.
Manano's going to get a kick out of that.
Oh, yeah. Well, he can't, though, because we all know that he would have butchered this even worse.
We got to get him on the show.
Oh, man. So, up next, when your city's name is French for not Iroquois, but for clear waters, it's going to be downright beautiful. First known as Sawdust City for the amount of lumber mills back in the day, today it's the ninth largest city in the state and the horseradish capital of the world. But guys, the coolest thing to me is that it's also the Coob capital of North America. That's right. You guys heard me right. Coob. Come on, boy. Don't tell me you've never heard of a game called Coob, Gilbert.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Used to play Coob with my old dadgum college roommate.
No, get out of here. You got to be.
We did every weekend,
get
Joe.
Get out of here.
Can't even say that with my straight face. I didn't have a college roommate.
I'm like, dang, that's pretty interesting. I've never heard of it.
Gilbert would do anything for a six-pack, bro. So the objective, guys, of Coob, it's a horseshoes meets bowling lawn game, is to knock over wooden blocks. Those are the Coobs, right?
Okay.
And Guy, you spell this Kubb, all right? Kubb. So the blocks are the Coobs by tossing wooden batons at them. So it's something I have never seen in my life, and this is what is so awesome about what we do, man. We get to learn some really cool things, and this happens in none other than Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
I would have called it Cobb.
Luis would say, I'm going to go play some Cobb.
Oh, Wisconsin, man. Thanks for listening, y'all. Thanks for being in the house tonight. And we getting a lot of people from Wisconsin. And if you are in Wisconsin, I just want to do a shout out to the Where to Hunt podcast with my buddy Eric out there, and listen to that podcast. It's really, really a great podcast to listen to.
Awesome, Joe. Next up, look, y'all, if you're into early American history, look no further. This place is cool, and I'm talking with a capital K, baby. It's America's oldest inland city and was actually the nation's capital for one day only. When the Continental Congress met downtown in 1777, it has 29 covered bridges known as kissing bridges. They have the first pretzel bakery in the States that opened in 1861. And Milton Hershey, for his famous candy, opened his first candy shop here in 1866, the Lancaster Caramel Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Man, we always talk about elk in Pennsylvania, so we keep saying y'all send us some pictures over there.
Yeah, Oak, I was going to ask you, Joe, do they have an elk herd in Wisconsin yet?
I don't know.
I don't either. But if they got one in Pennsylvania, I'm sure them rascals are headed west. You know, I mean, they'll be in Ohio and everywhere else before long.
It won't take long. It really won't, man.
You can't fence them in.
No.
They are where
People
they
have
are.
Tried.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, real quick, did you happen to have a quick update, even if it's just close enough, of the number of CDs, the number of listens, where you guys are at nowadays?
Oh, so like I said, we are like getting ready to top out listeners in 4,000 cities. We're just off of that right now. We are now have had listeners, and I don't know if they just found us by mistake or what, but 52 different countries that we've had that, and we just topped out our 70th thousandth listen.
70,000.
Yeah, I think the last time we gave that report, we were at 60,000, and we just topped out 70,000, and that's
total
just,
listens.
Yes, total listens, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
pretty cool, Joe.
Oh, it's awesome, man.
That's so cool, guys, listeners. Again, man, if y'all like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You know, if you want your questions aired, go to info@elkbros.com and send us an email. We'd love to talk about what you got on the show. Them 5-star ratings don't hurt us at all. So, you know, you have to go to Apple Podcast and also on YouTube. We're on YouTube all the time. You can hear the podcast on Apple Podcasts, but you can actually see all of my animated things that I do, and Joe and the boys too. I mean, if you go to YouTube, there's a lot of content that comes on that YouTube when Joe does some overlays and stuff like that. So check us out on YouTube when you get the opportunity.
Yeah. I want to give you both tons of props because you guys have put a lot of hours and a lot of work in this. I mean, I don't think listeners in general, and myself included, realize the work that goes behind the scenes to make this happen every week. You know,
Joe's the man.
Just looking the information up, you know, organizing the topics, and making sure the ideas flow, the editing, the equipment, and just loading all that stuff up. So pretty awesome, Joe. Pretty awesome.
Well, thanks, man. And I would like to tell you, all of our grinders out there, look, a lot of times what our content, what comes out, we want it to be pertinent to what's on your mind at the time. And when you send those questions, when you send those concerns, when you send those things that are intimidating you, or that you just think that you're falling short on, or you have this big blank space of wonder, man, send those in, because we want to make sure that it's time specific. And there's so many things that I take for granted. And that's why we have the group that we do. And we have all different levels here of people of experience and where they're from. Look, take a look. We're all talking to you from 3 different cities, man. And I'm an hour earlier. So that means these guys, right now it's 9:11 here. So that means they're up wherever they're at, 10 o'clock away from their families at night. So we really, our goal is to give content to you, to always help you to be better. I was just talking to another podcast this morning. I was talking to Chad from Backcountry Rookies. If you've never listened to it, check it out. It's just awesome. He has some incredible guests on there, and we were talking about sponsors and things like that. And one of the things that came up is, he's like, well, there's so many people that they don't want to talk about somebody else. They only want to plug their sponsors. And look, guys, here's the deal. we are here as coaches to help you become better and to have these incredible experiences. And the first thing that we are going to do is recommend the things to you that we believe in. We are going to tell you the places to go, whether they're a competitor or whether, look, if somebody's doing something good, the first thing I learned as a coach, and I know these guys are the same way, is I always taught my kids, you honor the effort, you honor the great things other people are doing. If you're competing against somebody, yeah, compete hard, love the competition like we do with when we're out there in the field, but you always honor those people that are putting that kind of great effort into it. I will be the first one to tell you, look, if you guys out there, a lot of you, when we talk about this topic, we're gonna cover it, but you're gonna hear me tell you, if you want to learn how to call elk, I'm going to tell you the people to listen to. We're going to have some stuff. Love for you to listen to that. But I tell you, you go listen to Paul Medell, the elk nut. He is just so much fun, and he is dead on. We have so many similarities in our lifestyle and our beliefs and stuff that I love what Paul does out there. You can listen to, we brought up Chris Rowe. You can go, Corey Jacobson is a world champion caller that has Elk 101. Go check these resources out, because every dollar that you spend in making yourself better, your knowledge level is going to come back not 1, not 5, not 10. It's going to come back 50-fold, because it's going to make your experience that much higher. How much would you be paying for an elk guide? Just think about that. Or to go someplace and have somebody show you to hunt. So that little bit of investment is going to go a long way. All right,
No
so
doubt.
Let's get to tonight's topic.
Hey, guys, incredible stuff. But guys, tonight's topic is really just one simple question. Knowing what we know now, what would we do if we were hunting elk for the first time? That's a question that I'm sure everybody, I know I had no idea what to do other than, who to contact and stuff like that. Right.
And before we get fully invested into the topic, Joe, would it be fair to kind of narrow it down to, what are we talking about? Is this a person that has some hunting experience and is going now to try elk hunting for the first time? Is this a person that is just no hunting experience whatsoever, is going straight into elk hunting? I think because some of the advices may be different. Some of the things maybe seem super basic.
And that's an excellent question. What I would tell anybody before they go take off and go on an elk hunt is to get some hunting experience first. I mean, you got to be proficient with your weapon. You've got to understand things about hunting. You've got to have a little bit of an investment, and we'll talk more about that in gear, as far as your weapon, as far as a simple pack, maybe like that, as far as if you wear any camouflage, those things that your GPS, those things go a long way. And just having some knowledge about woodsmanship and being out in the woods and stalking an animal, doing your research on an animal, those types of things I would recommend that people do first. Get some hunting experience, right? So
I agree. I think I would say, Joe, that it's elk hunting, at least the way we do it, is very challenging, and you have to have at least some foundation to start with. Just going at it for the first time. Going at it for the first time, not knowing any hunting at all, I think you probably need to, like you're saying, do your homework before and get a little bit of foundational knowledge and preparedness for it.
Well, and I will tell you this, guys, is it doesn't have to be big game necessarily, man. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, I cut my teeth squirrel hunting, hunting rabbits, and went to elk.
I started deer hunting when I was old enough to hold a rifle up at 5 or 6 years old. I didn't kill my first animal till I was probably 11, I think. But I killed a lot of squirrels and rabbits and stuff like that between that time. So, I mean, as soon as I could fire a weapon, my grandfather had me out there with him. But at the end of the day, elk hunting in general, if we're going to talk about, elk hunting for the first time,
right.
I can speak to this because it wasn't that long ago that happened for me. I didn't know who to contact, right? There's so much information out there right now. So I didn't know really who to contact, but I can tell you this, what I really did do is I went to my taxidermist who does all of my taxidermy work. I walk in his shop and he's got a whole bunch of elk heads on the wall that he's done, right? And I'm like, I wanted to go on a bow hunt, right? A real deal bow hunt. Now, I didn't really want, I grew up riding horses all my life. I know how problematic that could be. Really didn't want to do the horseback thing, stuff like that. But I wanted to go on a real deal bow hunt. And, I wish they would have told me, hey, fat ass, you ain't going to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, they didn't. They were kind to me. And they were like, listen up, man. If you want to go on a real deal elk hunt, you need to contact this outfitter, right?
So what I'm going to do, Gilbert, is I'm going to play the guy on the other side, because all of our listeners out here going, well, that's great, man, but I don't want to do an outfitter. I am going to do it myself. And so, Gilbert, you have taken a number of elk. I've met you and stuff like that. And buddy, I just want to ask you, if you were me, I want to go on my first elk hunt. If you were me, what would you do? What would be your plan, and how would you go about it?
Well, first of all, I'd want to figure out where, right? It'd be one of the first things that I want to do, Joe, is figure out where I wanted to hunt. Do I live in a state that's got elk, or am I going to have to travel outside? And then I'd have to figure out when I wanted to hunt, if I wanted to bow hunt, if I wanted to rifle hunt, what time of year. And then after that,
So I'm gonna interrupt you, bro. I'm sorry.
Sure,
I'm gonna interrupt
sure.
you. So I'm asking you then, what would you do? So where would you? When would you? Why would you? Tell me, man. What would you do if you were going to hunt for the first time, knowing what you know?
So I would definitely do my homework through the internet, right? I would go and look. I would look on my Onyx. If I were going to go hunt it, I'll figure out an area first that I wanted to hunt, a good high percentage area. Most of these states that are around here that are elk states, they put out information that are high success rate areas, and that these are their harvest numbers and this, that, and the other. I would definitely go focus on something like that. And then once I figured out where I was going to go, then I would do tons of map study through Onyx about where I wanted to be and what time of year, depending on what time of year I was going to hunt. But man, I would put a lot of time in figuring out where in that state that I was going to go hunt elk. And
so
then
what time of year do you want to hunt, bro?
Yeah, I'm a bow hunting guy. I want to hunt in September. I want to hunt as close, knowing what I know now. I'd want to hunt as close to that equinox as I could get it, and definitely customize my trip to be, if I'm doing it myself in the woods, I want to maximize the amount of time that I'm going to be there. I would try to hunt around that equinox that we know really kicks the rut off for elk, because I want to call them in. Right?
Would you be hunting by yourself?
I would be if I didn't have a buddy of mine that wanted to go. I'll run in a circle where there's a bunch of guys that like to hunt elk,
Right.
So however, I've said this many times, I put in for that draw up there in the Vidal, and if I draw out, somebody's coming with me. I don't know which one of y'all, but somebody's coming. So at the end of the day, I like hunting with buddies, right? I do. I think you're more successful doing it, especially when you're hunting at that time of the year.
I think it's big, especially on the safety side. I think it's important to have somebody with you at all times. I mean, the support system that takes place in the mountains is very important to have somebody with you that is going to have your back and you're going to have theirs, and for many reasons, right? But I'd rather hunt in a group as well.
So if somebody, and I'll kind of lead in, you guys jump in just the same way I did, if you want to hit the question there. But if somebody just came out and said, Joe, man, you've killed a lot of elk, And if you were going to go on your first elk hunt, what would be your plan? How would you go about it? I tell you what, Gilbert kind of hit on it a little bit. If you live in an elk state, my plan, what I would do is I would find the closest place to me that has elk. It doesn't have to be the greatest place. It doesn't have to be the highest percentage. I tell you what, the area that we hunt in was not a high percentage area. However, we had something to do with that percentage going up, right? So there's a lot of guys that go into our area. Remember, 10% of the guys are doing 90% of the killing, right?
Yeah.
So it's those same guys year after year, year after year. So I would find someplace as close as possible that has elk. And the reason I would do that is, number one, time is such a value, right? I would find some place that I could spend as much time hunting and as little time traveling. And that means that that's a place that I'm not just going to visit it one time a year. I'm not going to get there and just put boots on the ground. I have a chance to maybe go there and look for some sheds. I get to go there, maybe do some turkey hunting, experience the area. And if you can find some place that you can hunt year after year, now that's not available in every state. If there's OTC, you can do that. If there's not, and you're an in-state hunter, you got more chance of drawing, especially if you look for those areas that are not places that a lot of people go. All right. So I would find some place as close as possible. And I would learn that place. I would, just by traveling, I'm going to see things. I'm going to see blown up trees. I'm going to see trails that are happening. I'm going to see where sheds are happening. I'm going to see animals, man. And if I'm finding cows, now I'm already getting a hint as to what's going on. I'm seeing animals. I can have an encounter. So that would be my first thing. My plan would be, first of all, find some place that I can hunt as close as possible. If I'm out of state, same. Yeah. Where can I go that's as close to where I'm at to drive to, that I could go pretty much every year would be the best plan. I would find that place that I know I can elk hunt every year, and then I would put in for those places that I want to hunt every year in another place. All right. So that's the first thing I'd do. I can tell you, my plan would be, I'm a bow hunter. So my plan is, I want to be on the front end of the equinox. I don't want to be on the back end of the equinox. That's just me. Now they're going doggone nuts on the back end, and you can be just as successful there. But I really like it when those herds are developing. That's just me. I prefer that. I like it when bulls are not hooked up already, when bulls are going from that bachelor group and really starting to develop. They've got all of those all that testosterone starting to happen and start to confuse them, and they're starting to look for cows, and just that transition is a real good period to catch bulls off guard. So that's what I'm looking for. Now, if I'm a rifle hunter, I can tell you this: if I am not able to find a hunt in early October in the rut, I'm finding a hunt as late as possible. I don't want that myself. I don't want that period after the rut. I don't want that post-rut. I want late season. And the reason for that is those bulls are now showing up again, and they're having to eat. Okay. For everything, I tell everybody, try to keep it simple. So when it comes to your equipment, if my plan would be is to use what I'm most comfortable with. I'm most comfortable with the bow in my hand. That's what I want to use. If you're a rifle hunter and that's what you do, then you try to get yourself in a rifle elk hunt because you're comfortable with your weapon. You're most likely comfortable with your scope, with glassing and things like that. Now, let me ask you guys, your first hunt out, what would be your plan on what type of elk you would be hunting?
For me, it was about killing the bull and not a bull.
I remember.
And you probably know my answer now. I would change that. Elk hunting is extremely difficult, And I'm going to tell you this, any bull or any elk you can arrow with your bow and harvest is a true trophy, right?
Yeah.
So I would change that. I had many opportunities that I passed on early in my elk hunting career because I wanted to kill a big bull. And I wish I wouldn't have done that. I would have had a lot of opportunities to get some real elk hunting experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did have the opportunity to shoot a big bull, I think it would have been a little bit easier because as we do this, things do become a little more easier for us to close the deal. But for me, it was about killing a big bull. So, and we did it. I mean, it took us a couple of times to get it done, but at the end of the day, I mean, we got it done. But for me anymore, I mean, the first legal elk that walks out in front of me is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. And in my case, it was a little different. You know, first of all, I had the experience of what you guys have gone through and heard a lot about it. But hey, look, first time I came out there, the dream I have in my mind is a big bull. You know, period. I mean, that's what you come out there, you imagined yourself in a situation with a big bull. But very quickly on my first trip, I realized the difficulty and the challenges of this hunt. And at this point it was like, you know what? I just, honestly, it doesn't matter. Any opportunity I get, I will take it. And I can tell you that on the 4 elk hunting trips I've been out there with you guys, every opportunity I had a decent chance of taking it, I have taken. And so
you know, I wish I could hang Luis on a keychain off my belt loop, because the first year that boy came out here, these guys had more big bulls, opportunities, sightings, and encounters than most guys will experience in 10 years. You guys, I
had one opportunity. I did see a lot, but I had one opportunity and I took it.
Yeah, and
yeah, but the big Canadian had a bunch. He had enough for all of us.
I tell you what, though, the encounters that we had were unbelievable, bull after bull after bull. And when you're having, y'all, the more encounters you have, the more opportunity you have for you to make that, to have that draw, to have that opportunity for a kill.
Well, and to what Luis is saying, he felt like he had one opportunity. I can tell you this, with what you know now, every one of those was an opportunity for you. But you know a whole lot more now, Luis.
Yes.
At that time, you felt like I only had one opportunity. But I promise you, if you reset yourself back in that setting with the experience level you have now, you had a lot more, right? And I know that because of the way
potentially I could have created more opportunities.
Right, for sure.
I didn't have opportunities because potentially I didn't do things that I could have created.
That's right. That's what I'm getting at.
So for our listeners, that's really huge right there, Luis. It's really huge. You guys got to understand that when you get amongst elk, when you get so that you have those encounters, your opportunities that are going to happen, I can tell you this, 90% of those opportunities are going to happen because you make them happen. If you are going to sit and wait for that opportunity to come to you, you're going to be waiting a long time sometimes. You got to have everything go the right way.
As a matter of fact, Joe, that one opportunity I had, you grabbed me by the backpack and pulled me back and put me in a window where there was the opportunity. So that was the one opportunity I had, and it was just drugged by you on the road, and here's the window, and stop the elk and shoot.
So yeah, we're literally, we're right. I mean, we hadn't been off the 4-wheeler 5 minutes walking, and I had done some cow calls. I did some cow calls, and man, just off to the left and in through over top of some scrub oak, all of a sudden this bull shows up and I'm frozen, and that bull's staring right at us with a broadside, and I'm like, he's right there, you know, and he's like, I can't see it. So I literally grab him by the pack and pull him over so that he would have that shot. Yeah, it was
bull going, what in the
that bull was like Yeah, that bull could not figure what was going on there, you know.
It was a
And
crazy shot through the brush, perfect window,
perfect
and
window.
you stopped him right on that window, and
Yeah.
so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was great. But the other thing that I want to bring up too is you said in your mind, you know, everybody wants that big bull.
Yes.
Well, that's a relative term too, because a lot of guys that have never been around a bull elk, uh, a lot of bulls that might not be a trophy bull
They look
might
pretty
be.
big.
It looks really big, man.
They do.
They're huge, man. I'll never forget it. Golly.
Well,
I've had them blow dirt all over me and everything. It's like a Clydesdale horse coming at you, man.
Well,
That
and I
year you
had,
killed a raghorn, and I was like, "Oh my God, look at that bull!" And you're like, "No, that's just a little raghorn." I was like, "Holy crap!"
That's the point I'm trying to make, because they are just such huge animals. So, look, Michael Batiste, I think, brought it up one time because somebody was talking about trophy and when do you consider something a trophy. And this was the coolest thing I heard, was that if it gets your heartbeat going, if it gets your pulse racing, if you get excited about that critter in front of you, you've got a trophy.
No
Because
doubt.
that's what you're living for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, that's every time I draw.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. You know, with my bow, I feel like everything, I don't care if it's a chipmunk or what, I mean, it is a true gift from God, a trophy that if we can harvest that animal, right? I think another thing, Joe, we hit on is our equipment. You know, I've seen guys go out their first time be real dejected because they didn't use some of the right equipment, right? They
Right.
were a little underpowered, a little, you know, a lot of guys shoot some bows that are, you know, these are big, thick-skinned animals. They're not deer.
Right.
They're much more thick-skinned, like a hog, and even thicker than that. They got denser bones than a hog does. The hog's got the plate and everything that you got to send it through. But at the end of the day, elk are big critters, man. I mean, you know, so a lot of guys will show up with a bow that's a 55-pound bow, or you know, maybe even uh, 50, 58 to 60, and they're shooting
Right.
mechanical broadheads and this, that, and the other. It's just a recipe for disaster because they don't have the kinetic energy at distance, right? A lot of times we're not shooting 20 and in, we're shooting 40, you know, 45. And as that velocity dwindles, your impact force is going to dwindle as well. It's simple physics. So if I could tell guys, when you're working out, man, work on those traps and the triceps and everything else. So if you got a bow that you can turn it up to 60, 65, 70, and you can shoot it accurately, use a heavy arrow, a cut-on contact broadhead that we've mentioned several times, not mechanicals. I think it'll help them in their first times going out there having some basic equipment that's not going to fail them. A good flashlight, you know, something that's not going to fail them, you know, a good handheld, either telephone or GPS that's got Onyx on it. I think those are things that can really help them.
And I think it's important, Beto, you're describing actual hunting equipment, the stuff that you're going to use your gear to hunt. To me, when I think of equipment, there's three things I think about. I think my hunting gear, I think my clothing, my actual what am I wearing and what do I need, and then camping equipment, camping gear, and stuff like that. And I think the latter two are more related to the first question of where, you know, where are we going to go hunting and what time of the year. So those last two relate a lot to those first two things. So you have to really define where and when in order to define those two. But as far as the equipment, your hunting gear that you just mentioned, agree 100%. I was blessed to learn from y'all's experiences, and that's what I went out with, and I'm still using that same equipment.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I would, if you asked me what my plan was, I'd find a place as close as I can that I can get to know. I'd be hunting with a weapon that I've hunted with, that me and that weapon are buddies, pals, friends, and we know each other. That way there's no surprises. I would be hunting with a buddy, minimum of one buddy out there. I would have learned how to use a diaphragm call with a grunt tube so that I have good cow calls, a couple of decent bugles. I would be hunting in that first part of September, probably 10 days prior to the equinox. In that phase right there, I would not care whether it was a full moon or a dark moon.
Yeah, me
I'm
either.
hunting that because my plan is, if I do have a full moon, that I'm going to find critters at night, locate them at night, and be on them in the morning first light. That's going to be my plan. I'm going to use a base camp. I'm going to use a truck with a tent and be able to travel. I prefer to use a four-wheeler where I'm at, so I don't have to take my truck in and out. I'd like my truck to be something where everything can stay. It can stay at the camp there. I like to use a four-wheeler and get out into an area. I don't like just driving around to hunt. My goal is to find those areas where other people aren't. So my plan would be to look for those areas between roads where most people want to stay two roads. I'm looking for those places that people pass, and I like to use a four-wheeler as my mode just to get to an area, and then I'm on my feet. I want to be in the woods 2 hours before daylight, 1 hour minimum, trying to locate, moving slow. My strategy is I like to move. I like to give a little bit of a cow call here, especially when I'm doing early season. I'll do it through a grunt tube because, guys, it's not always sounding like a cow call. Sometimes it sounds like a bow call. In other words, bulls will make those cow mews when they're communicating moving through. I've had a lot of bulls come into me early season just to check out another bull because that's where they're communicating. They're not necessarily doing a lot of bugling. I would do a location bugle, and I like to use a double bugle, especially early season. I've given that before. I'll give that again on another episode. But it's basically where I do a location. As I'm coming down, I go right back to that high note. And I would tell you this, guys, a lot of times when I do a location bugle, ask any of these guys, I never even use any of the lower tones. I pretty much go right to that high tone. If I've done any calling and I know nothing's close by, I'm going to go right to that high tone and I'm going to broadcast. Man, I just take my grunt tube and go all the way across and broadcast. And then I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to listen and I'm going to work through the woods like an elk. That's my game plan. That's what I'm going to do. And for me, if I was just me and two guys and I didn't have to worry about helping other people, because I love to hunt, I have passed on animals early on because I didn't want it to end. But when I have other guys in camp and there's 6 of us and I'm going to be calling, that means first legal animal that I get, I'm going to put the animal down so that I can then help my buddies to get theirs, because that's what I live for and that's what I'm there for. Um, you know, that's kind of my strategy and how I'm going to go about it. And the areas that I'm going in my plan, I'm going to find the thickest area I can. I want to be in timber. I want to be in oak brush. I don't want to be in open areas. I want it as thick as possible because I'm guaranteed a 20-yard shot or a 30-yard shot, sometimes a 10-yard shot when I do that. So that's kind of my game plan. That's my mentality when I'm going out there.
I want people to understand that in this little monologue that you have just executed, you have amazingly summarized exactly what you do in our hunts. I mean, this is exactly what you do, Joe. And as you're walking through this, I'm just kind of going through images in my head of how all of this is actually takes place every day in and out. So I just, people need to understand how valuable that is, because this is word by word exactly our game plan.
It is the modus operandi of what we do. I mean, and nothing, we've never wavered from that, and it's highly successful. So if you guys listening will take a few notes on what Joe just said in his little rant, I'm serious. It is fantastic stuff. And if you'll do it, I mean, you're gonna be amongst the elk. One thing that he said about getting good with a diaphragm call and everything, some diaphragm calls can act funny in the mornings and stuff. So you kind of need to warm them up, warm them up in camp before you get out or whatever. And look, I ain't going to lie. I keep a hoochie mama in my backpack just in case something happens with my diaphragm and I need to use something to stop an elk or whatever. Right. And so, I mean, look, there've been 1,000 bull elk killed with a hoochie mama. Right. I usually carry multiple diaphragm calls, but I'm telling you, I keep my hoochie mama in there just in case something goes wrong, and they all go bad. So at the end of the day, and another thing, I've seen 1 million guys go out and leave camp and forget their release. Put a release in your bag. Keep an extra one in there. There's nothing worse than getting out there and getting all your stuff together, and after you've traveled all the way, and then you're just going to be along for the ride.
wrap it around your bow.
Yeah, or have your soles fall off your boots. I mean, there's stuff that you can plan for, and then there's stuff you can't.
This year I was so excited. I get all my gear ready and I go out and do things. I was so excited to get these guys out there and to get started that we drive for, I don't know what, hour and a half, man, and get to our location there, and I get out and I get off and I was like, God dang, I feel light. And because I didn't have my pack on, man. I left my pack in camp. That meant my grunt tube. That meant my calls right there. That's when actually Luis and I got into a relationship because
yeah, we didn't kiss though, but he just got pretty close there. It's just,
I was like, dude, man. He's like, well, I have a diaphragm, but I've used it. And I was like, give me the friggin' diaphragm, man.
Yeah, we ain't gonna get all cootified and everything. Come on, bro.
So I actually the day that he killed his elk was with a borrowed diaphragm and a borrowed grunt tube.
That's right.
And do you remember that, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I lent you my grunt tube and my diaphragm. You didn't have your backpack with you at all. You did have the camera though, because Manano was going to be the cameraman.
Well, he had that, and that's what it was. Is we were trying to get everything. My brain was everywhere else other than just that, trying to make sure that we got stuff on video and everything. But I will tell you this: I offered to give the diaphragm call back to him, and he wouldn't take it. So,
this relationship is only one way, Joe.
That's some amazing content, Joe, to help guys on their first time out. And then that's straight up do it yourself, right?
Right. Well, and you didn't hear us mention. You didn't hear me mention anything about camouflage. You didn't, anything about boots or anything. Look, I don't care what you wear. You pay attention to the wind. You better have 2 scent checkers on you, because you take care of the wind. You do a job. You learn to talk to these animals. You learn to shoot well. You learn to be patient at the end, but make your opportunity. Listen to the things that we teach. You can go listen to our podcasts on closing the deal. You're going to hear a lot about that. But, if you do those things, and you get out there and you get off the beaten path and you hunt fearless, you use that onyx, man, religiously to locate places and get in things. It doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter what's on your feet. I hunt in tennis shoes, man. It doesn't matter. Now, I tell you, you get in extreme conditions.
That's what I was going to say. What you wear, it's mainly dependent on weather, other than
correct
the way it looks or whatever. But just weather, just keep weather in mind.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, if you're in some place that has extreme conditions, there's no way you can go up to Alaska and have, do some of the things I've gotten away with. But in New Mexico, I know that when my feet get wet in the morning, they're going to dry off by 10 o'clock because everything's going to start warming up. But
feet dry. Try to keep your feet dry.
I can't stand my feet to be wet. I ain't having it. So I wear a good pair of boots. It for me. My feet are 2 of the most important things that tote me around every day, and because I got plenty to tote. And at the end of the day, I got to take care of them. I learned a good lesson a long time ago. not elk hunting, but doing other things in my life, that a good pair of socks and a great pair of boots are lifesavers. And for me, it's about keeping my feet dry and keeping them in good shape. Because I'm telling you, there's nothing worse than being out there and your feet hurt and they got blisters. And
if you tear them up the first day, then the rest of your hunt is going to be miserable.
You hunt tennis shoes, none of that stuff happens, y'all.
Well, I mean, but you got to understand, Joe's been living up there for a long time and doing this for a long time. He's got calluses on his feet. They look like a daggone warlock foot, right?
Yeah, he actually took a picture of them the other day and posted it on Instagram, and I'm like, please don't, Joe.
Yeah,
please
if you
don't.
got like a big warlock foot like Joe, yeah, you can run around barefooted like Bigfoot up there. But at the end of the day, Sasquatch, most of us aren't Sasquatch like Joe. Get yourself a good pair of boots, man, and you'll save yourself a lot. I mean, I got tender feet, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's a softie, man. He's just soft all.
I got tender
man.
feet. I'll never forget one time my wife and I were at a resort in the Caribbean, and at the end of the day, she loves the sand and the water and everything, man. As soon as I took my shoes off, man, that sand was so hot on my feet. I'm talking like burning like fire on my feet. And I'm like, and I'm getting to my little cabana there, and I'm telling you, my feet, she goes, big sissy. I can't believe you lived in Texas all your life and you didn't go around barefoot. I said, no, my feet can't.
This is where the YouTube channel comes in so valuable, because you get to see the faces that Gilbert just made.
I'm gonna pull us back in, man.
No, wait a minute now. I'm telling you, she said, you're such a big sissy. I said, no, I'm not. That night, after we got done tanning and all that, I couldn't go back to the room because I had huge water blisters, huge ones on my feet, Joe. That I had to go to the doctor there. And
my Lord,
man, there's huge. Have that stuff drained off my feet. There's huge water blisters on my feet. So when I tell people I got real sensitive feet, I'm telling you the truth.
So that just tells y'all, man, find out what boot he's wearing, because if that boot is protecting his feet, man, the average person is really taken care of, man.
Amadeo Soto said, I can't believe you're wearing those boots. You said you wore those boots and you're wearing those boots. Manano was standing right next to me. He thought that was hilarious, man.
So what I want to tell you guys out there is if you heard anything in there that you have questions about, if there's something that you went, okay, I get that, but here's what I really want to know now, send that question in. We will answer that, because hopefully what we just did as far as what we would do, that maybe that raised some questions, maybe it raised some concerns, maybe it did some other thing. Just send it in, because right now we're going to go to our ElkBros mailbox, because we had a lot of questions come in our lineup. Up first will be Richard Ross, then Keith Palmer, and then John Jones, Derek Baker, and Alex. I hope I say it right. It's Fedua or Fedua. You can call me Giglia, Giggles, whatever you want, because people butcher my name all the time, and I apologize ahead of time. But those are lined up just in case we don't get through everybody right now. So we're going to start out with Richard Ross. And Richard is from that place that we had to pronounce before, from Washington, that Stillicum. We got it down now, buddy. Stillicum, Washington. And he said, have you ever heard of someone using for scent control with hydrogen peroxide to wash down with using wipes? So they were using wipes with hydrogen peroxide, or that baking soda in your boots for scent. I knew a guy that did just this, and I was wondering, is this a thing of the past for hunting? And so let the poor country boy here start off. Have you guys ever used any of that stuff?
Used baking soda.
I have used the baking soda for washing the boots.
So Chav and I used to take baking soda and powder the body, drop some in the chones. That's our underwear for you guys that don't speak Spanish. Put some back there in the back. And I can tell you what, if you've ever had baking soda down in your private area, it can be a little irritating. But no, baking soda it probably is a thing of the past, because there's things that you can use that don't irritate you right now that do some of the same things they make, and it's so low cost. I mean, guys, go to Walmart right now, man, and I guarantee you all of those deodorants, all those
Yeah.
unscented deodorants are all on sale.
And I have heard of the hydrogen peroxide. I have not gone as far as using it, Joe. I think, to your point, if you wash your clothing with
Right.
non-scent soap and you let it dry out in the sun or whatever, and then just keep it in a bag to where it's just going to kind of not going to be contaminated by any other scent or anything like
Right.
that. And then if
Right.
you actually shower with non-scent soap and use non-scent deodorant, I think that gets you as close as you can ever get. I mean,
Yeah.
the hydrogen peroxide may give you that extra little oomph, but at the end of the day, when you're hunting these animals, I mean, you're playing the wind. So you're just trying to minimize the potential spooks when you get super close to the animal.
Yeah.
And I don't think that peroxide and what products are out there is going to make, or is a deal maker or breaker.
I use Scent Killer Gold on my clothing, right?
Yeah.
That stuff is fantastic. It won't
Right.
allow your clothing to absorb any scent, right, for a few days.
Well, and Richard, I think this stuff is of the past, and the reason I think it is back in the day we did not have all these other things.
Yeah.
So we were pretty limited. I mean, it seemed like everything out there was to keep, to cover with a good smell, all the deodorants and stuff. So we have so many options right now, but it is real. I still throw baking soda in with my clothes every now and then. So it's just a habit that I have. All right.
Yeah, I'm just going to get in the habit of telling you guys to use the wind, because if y'all don't make a dadgum bit of difference what you got on. If y'all don't use the wind, they ain't going to be there.
Go listen to our podcast on scent. That's a good one to listen to.
Right.
Keith Palmer. Keith Palmer's one of our patrons on our Patreon page. He's from Saskatchewan, Canada. Keith, first of all, thanks, bud, for being a patron on our Patreon page, man. That's so cool.
Yes.
Keith says, love the podcast. Tons and tons of great information you're giving us, and it's entertaining too. My question is, have any of you done any flatland forest hunting for elk or just mountains? If you have, would it be possible to give some pointers on how to locate them? And the areas that we hunt, Keith, you have a choice. You have a choice of being up in the more mountainous areas or down on what we call kind of mesa tops. And our mesa tops are pretty flat. You'll find some, there's rises, there's dips, there's crevices, and it does drop off on the sides, but it's a different.
Just remember, when you lose elevation, you got to come back up.
And it's always uphill, no matter what.
No matter what.
But if you're hunting flatland forest and you're trying to locate elk, I don't think it changes. Now, you don't have this upper third, lower third things on where those animals are staying. As far as where they're bedding down and the different things, but they are going to find a defensive location of some time. And
they'll find a thicket or something, Joe.
Right. They're going to find a thicket or something to get inside there, or they're going to get in an area that is kind of thick where they can get the shade and yet have open area around them where they can see. Locating them, elk are elk. So they're going to, if they're going to communicate, they're herd animals, they're going to talk, you're going to locate them the same way.
Slaves to their bellies.
Yeah, and slave to their bellies, like Gilbert always says, man. So you're going to do a lot of the same things. You're going to move, you're going to use your nose, you're going to use your eyes looking for sign, and you're going to talk. Your best bet for creating opportunities is being able to talk to those animals. And I think that is number one. It really doesn't matter whether you're in Arizona in those flatter areas or in Arizona up in their mountain areas, or New Mexico tabletop, New Mexico mountains, New Mexico scrub. It's pretty much the same strategy every place as far as using our eyes, using our nose, and being able to call to these animals to get them. Remember, half the battle of killing an elk is locating them. So if you can get them to give away their location to where you can move in, you're in the money. Okay.
Yeah, and looking where Keith's from up there in Saskatchewan,
Right.
I would have to think he's in some of that flatter forest that what he's talking about.
Right.
And look, Keith, these critters are slaves to their bellies. They're gonna eat and they're gonna drink, and they're gonna reproduce. So as soon as you can find the corridors or their travel corridors to and from the places that they like to be, morning and evening, where they want to feed, where they want to bed. Those are the places you're going to find the elk. And if you can get in there in the thick stuff, your opportunities are going to be even greater because you're going to have shot opportunities that are in tight, that are in close, right? I like the thick stuff. So Joe and I, we've killed a lot of bulls in the thick stuff. And I've managed to be able to shoot a 70-yard shot in the thick stuff, but at the end of the day, I think it's super important for you to understand the travel corridors of your elk in that flatland forest and where they're going to
exactly. And all about the feed. And the thing is, you guys have so much water, so those animals are going to be dispersed. They're going to be a little bit different. They're going to be where they feel like they have the most safety, where they can do the things that they want to do, and be able to eat. And breeding is going to be huge. That's why I think that September hunt is such a big one. So
yeah, and Joe, he's asking also about locating them. Man, get good at giving one of those location bugles. They'll sound off.
That's what I'm saying. You learn to talk, learn to call, and get them to give away where they're at. Okay.
That's right.
So we're going to go to John Jones. He's from Farmington, Iowa. Derek Baker and Alex, we're going to have to hit you guys on the next one because they're going to really take some time to be able to answer those. John's got a real quick one here. He's from Farmington, Iowa, and he says, I've been listening all week to your podcast. Love them, by the way, very informative, but I was wondering, will there be a line of ElkBros camo for sale anytime soon?
That's a great question, and I'm glad he asked that, Joe. Lay it on him, brother.
So, John, buddy, that is, I'm showing you, this is the first prototype right here for ElkBros, a condo camouflage. It's got our blur and diffusion pattern in it where you can see some areas that are blurred out. It's got some shadow lines that will actually, as you get further away, start to darken. This is our first camo pattern, and we are currently in the works right now of trying to get that developed and get that produced so that we can sell that. Our goal is to be able to have different levels for different people because we want our grinders to be able to get a shirt, to get pants at a price that they can afford. If you want to go up in levels to other things, then we're going to try to have that as well. But we want something for all levels that people can afford and whatever they desire so that they can have this and wear proudly our pattern out in the woods. And we'll talk more about this and what went into it, the thought processes. But buddy, that's a great question, and it's happening. And
I'm glad Joe got to break out the new swag that's coming out. I mean, it's awesome to see Joe in his ElkBros t-shirt. Next week, hopefully, we're all in an ElkBros t-shirt. At the end of the day,
that's Chav right there.
That's Chav right there is where he's pointing. And then
that was you. Chav is the one on the other one.
And then we'll have the camo out shortly. We're working on that Yeah, that's Chav right there.
That's Chav right there. My bad. I'm the big guy. He's the little guy.
That's okay. We all know what you're talking about, brother. Having the camo and everything's been kind of a dream of Joe's and mine.
Yeah, it is. It's a dream of mine.
It's gonna be real cool. I mean, we crawling, walking, and running, so it's gonna be good.
Yeah. All right, bud. I think that's an evening.
Well, again, like to all our listeners, man, please rate and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us. Thanks so much for everything, guys. Thank y'all for your time tonight, Joe, Luis. give Chav our best, Joe, for sure.
Definitely. You bet.
Amen.
And husbands, please kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husband. Hug your babies. Keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace.
Peace.
Later.